A lot of writers I work with say that this is one of the best things about working with a book coach, the fact that they can share their vision with someone and then have someone on their team as they execute that vision. Writing is a pretty solitary endeavor, and I think it's one of the best feelings ever to talk to somebody about your characters and your plot and what you hope for your story, things like that. Welcome to the Fiction Writing Made Easy podcast. My name is Savannah Gilbo, and I'm here to help you write a story that works. I want to prove to you that writing a novel doesn't have to be overwhelming. So each week, I'll bring you a brand new episode with simple, actionable, and step-by-step strategies that you can implement in your writing right away. So whether you're brand new to writing or more of a seasoned author looking to improve your craft, this podcast is for you. So pick up a pen and let's get started. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how a book coach can help you finish your draft and become a better writer. First, we're going to talk about exactly what a book coach is, and then we're going to talk about how a book coach can help you with your writing. And finally, I'm going to share some tips on how to find the best book coach for you. So if you've ever wondered what the heck a book coach does, or if you've ever wished there was someone who could guide you through writing a story, then I think you're really going to like today's episode. So what is a book coach? Well, a book coach is someone who guides a writer through the entire book writing process from start to finish while giving editorial feedback, accountability, and support along the way. So let's break down each of those pieces just a bit. The first thing a book coach can do is provide editorial feedback on your story as you write it. What this means is that you'll get real-time feedback on your story as you write. So whether you're struggling to write a well-structured scene or to create a compelling character or to map out your novel from start to finish, a book coach can help you by tailoring their feedback specifically to your needs and to the needs of your story. This also means that you'll end up writing a first draft that gets better in quality as you write. And that's because as you learn new skills and get better at writing, your work in progress draft will improve too. A book coach can also help you clarify your vision so that the story you write matches the story that's in your head. So, for example, when I'm working with a new writer, I ask questions like, what kind of point would you like to make with your story? Or how would you like readers to feel while experiencing your story? And then I help them craft a story that will deliver their point and make readers feel a certain way. A lot of writers I work with say that this is one of the best things about working with a book coach, the fact that they can share their vision with someone and then have someone on their team as they execute that vision. Writing is a pretty solitary endeavor, and I think it's one of the best feelings ever to talk to somebody about your characters and your plot and what you hope for your story, things like that. The next thing a book coach can do is hold you accountable to your writing goals. Many writers waste years and years trying to scrounge up writing advice from all kinds of books or blogs or courses or workshops, only to wind up feeling hopeless and frustrated. You can certainly learn to write a book this way with lots of trial and error, but it can take a long time, especially if you're throwing out a bunch of pages or starting over a bunch of times. A book coach can guide you through the writing process from start to finish. So they're essentially a project manager who can help you set realistic goals and then stay accountable to those goals. And I can't tell you how many writers I work with who say their absolute favorite thing about the coaching process is that they know someone's waiting for their next set of pages each week. And I'm kind of the same way with my own work. If I know someone's expecting something from me, I will get it done. But if it's just me waiting on myself, then, sometimes I get it done, sometimes I don't. Finally, book coaches are great listeners and excellent cheerleaders. So it's no joke that writing a book is hard. A lot of book coaches write their own fiction so they know firsthand what it's like to feel overwhelmed with notes and ideas, or what it feels like to put long hours into writing, things like that. But when you work with a book coach, they can help support you emotionally as you do the hard yet rewarding work of writing a book. It's like having someone in your corner helping you achieve your writing goals, brainstorming with you when you get stuck, cheering you on when exciting things happen, and supporting you all the way to the end. It's really, really awesome and really rewarding. Now, you might be thinking, all of that sounds great, but when exactly should I work with a book coach? And generally speaking, you can work with a book coach at any time. That's kind of the beauty of book coaches, is that they'll dive in and meet you wherever you're at. So let's say, for example, that you have a really great idea for a story, but you don't know where to start. A book coach can help you take that idea and turn it into a strong premise for a story. So they can help you flesh out your characters, structure your story and build out your outline, uncover the theme of your story, things like that. Also that you can start writing from a place of confidence instead of from a place of overwhelm. Another great time to work with a book coach is if you get stuck in the middle of a draft or if you've lost momentum halfway through a draft. So in this scenario, a book coach can help you unwind everything and peel back the layers of your story to figure out exactly where it went wrong, why it went wrong, and how to start over the right way. You can also work with a book coach after you've finished a draft and when you're ready to start revisions. So in this scenario, a book coach can help you assess the current state of your draft, much like a developmental editor would, and then guide you through the next steps for the revisions or for your next draft. A book coach can also help if you've queried agents and only gotten back rejections. So if you have a bunch of rejection letters and you want to understand why your story is being rejected, a book coach can take a look at your manuscript, your query letter, your synopsis, all the stuff you have to submit, and then help you drill down into what's working, what's not working, and why. And then they can help you make your draft and your query package stronger and more appealing to agents and editors. So like I mentioned earlier, there's no right time to work with a book coach per se, but the best time is any time, and that's really the great thing about book coaches. They can jump in and meet you where you're at and help you accomplish your goals. Now, let's talk about how to find the right book coach for you. It's important to do your research before picking a book coach to work with because not all book coaches are created equally. And with all the options out there, it can be a little bit overwhelming or intimidating to choose the best book coach to work with. So I'm going to go over my top 5 tips for choosing a book coach to work with. Tip number 1 is to ask yourself what you're looking for in a coach. And this is super important. So when you imagine working with a book coach, what does that experience look like? Do you want a coach who has more of a tough love style or one who's more laid back? Do you imagine talking to your coach on the phone or only via email? Does it matter if your coach lives in the same time zone as you, or does it not matter at all? You want to make sure that the coaches you're considering are open to your preferred coaching style and communication method before you commit to taking the next step, because otherwise, what's the point, right? Tip number 2 is you want to determine whether expertise in your genre is important. I highly recommend seeking out a writing coach who's got deep experience in your genre. And that's because each genre has its own set of obligatory scenes and conventions or things that the readers are going to be expecting. And realistically, there are few book coaches who can appropriately master every single genre or that even prefer to work in every single genre. So look for the right coach who has a passion for or experience in your genre unless you feel like an outsider's perspective on your work would have its own unique value. Tip number 3 is to review their website thoroughly. So you should be able to learn a lot about the coach you're considering on the About page of their website. So you'll want to look for things like, do they have any certifications or special skills that are particularly relevant to your story? Do they read widely in your genre? Do they dislike your genre? You can look at things like what their past clients have to say. So do they offer testimonials as some kind of, proof that their services are valuable? You might get some kind of vibe from what they're saying or, how their website looks that either speaks to you or doesn't, right? I mean, your goal is to get a sense of their philosophy and style. So you want someone that you can trust, which, can't always be measured by plain old facts. Sometimes you do need to take personality and vibe and energy and all that kind of intangible stuff into account too. Which brings me to tip number 4, which is to get a feel for their personality and their coaching philosophy. So if you've had a look around this coach's website and you like their philosophy and you get a good vibe from them, you'll want to take the next step and contact them. So fill out the form on their website, send them an email with a few questions, or set up a consulting call if they offer that option. When you get a response, you'll just want to consider things like, do they seem professional? Do they inspire confidence? If you get them on the phone, you can ask them about their process. Are they someone who's going to insist you follow their routine and their route to success? Or will they allow you to kind of meander off their path to forge your own? And, just like in real life, you're probably going to know pretty quickly if you jive with that person or not. Tip number 5 is to just ask them if they think they're the right book coach for you. So after you tell them about your project, you just want to ask them if they think they're a good fit. And you'd be surprised how many coaches have the foresight and the integrity to say maybe not. And this is actually a good thing. They might tell you they don't feel comfortable working in your genre, or that your timeline doesn't work with their schedule, or that, maybe they aren't currently taking nonfiction projects if that's what you're working on, things like that. And Some book coaches, if they're not the right fit for you, they will actually suggest other book coaches who would be a great fit. So it's not like you're going to be left without options. And, this is something I do all the time because I think fit is so important and I want everyone to have success. So if I, say you come to me through my contact form and I think you're a really great fit for another book coach I know, then I'm going to suggest that. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and don't be surprised if that happens to you. It's usually nothing personal. It's just about, finding the right fit for the coach and finding the right fit for you, the writer. So that's it for today's episode. Let's do a quick recap of some of the key points we went over. Key point number 1 is that a book coach is someone who can guide a writer through the entire book writing process from start to finish while giving editorial feedback, accountability, and support along the way. So in other words, they can teach you how to write a book and how to become a better writer through the whole process. Key point number 2 is that you can hire a book coach at any time throughout the writing process. When you're just starting to develop an idea, when you're stuck in the middle of a draft, or when you've reached the end of a draft and you don't know what to do next. You can even work with the book coach if you've queried and received nothing but rejections and need some help on making your story better. Key point number 3 is that when you're on the hunt for a book coach to work with, you want to consider first what you want in a book coach, then you want to determine their expertise in your genre. You'll want to read their website thoroughly, get a feel for their coaching style and their philosophy, and then ask them what they think. Are they the right coach for you, or can they recommend someone who might be a better fit? So that's it for today's show. As always, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and showing your support. If you want to check out any of the links I mentioned in this episode, you can find them over at savannahgilbo.com/podcast. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the show because there's going to be another brand new episode coming out next week. If you're an Apple user, I'd really appreciate it if you took a few seconds to leave a quick rating and review. Your ratings and reviews tell iTunes that this is a podcast that's worth listening to. And in turn, that helps this show get in front of more fiction writers just like you. So that's it for today's show. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, happy writing.